Well, good afternoon, and welcome to this week's edition of Drive Facebook Live. I'm Bob Spitz, your host, and we have a special show this week. We have two of our great coaches on with us, Nathan and Bill, and we're going to be talking about service contracts. And first, I'd like Nathan and Bill to introduce themselves. Nathan, why don't you introduce yourself to the listening audience?
Yeah, thank you, Bob. My name's Nathan. I've been with Drive for almost 2 years now. I am one of the Drive consultants, and I came to Drive out of the automotive industry. 13 years of experience as a service advisor, assistant service manager, and service manager at multiple dealerships across the kind of South and Midwest. Most of it with Volkswagen and then Lexus and Toyota.
All right. Well, I'm glad to have you. And Bill, would you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Bob. And my name is Bill Ascolillo. And similar to Nathan, I came out of the dealership world myself. I've been with Drive now almost 8 months, and I've been in the automotive sector for about 38 years now. 10 to 15 years of it was in management, and the rest was on the floor as a technician. So I've been the service manager at about three different Ford dealerships.
All right. Well, I'm glad to have you guys with me because this is an area I'm really not familiar with, and I know you two are with your dealership experience. So first, Nathan, I'm going to start with you. What the heck is a vehicle service contract? And because people think that's the same thing as an extended warranty.
Yeah, no, that's it's a really good question, Bob, and it's a common misconception. When you think about what a warranty is, a warranty is something that the manufacturer of a good or service can issue on their product, right? So I buy a Toyota Sienna, Toyota offers a warranty on my van. Okay. Only Toyota can extend that warranty on as they choose, right? And then they do that, like specific parts or things like that. Third party companies can't offer a warranty on something that they didn't manufacture or produce. So that's a real clear thing. The what we're talking about here is it's an extended service contract, meaning the purchaser enters into a contract with this company that agrees to pay for repairs that meet the conditions stated out in the contract. And that's really key when talking to not only shop owners but even as former customers, is people think, oh, I bought a warranty on this car. Well, no, you didn't. You bought a contract with another company that will pay for certain repairs under certain conditions. And that's really the biggest difference.
And you would see that confusion with consumers.
All the time. All the time, Bob.
Bill, did you have that same experience with Ford?
And yes, I did. And Nathan's actually hitting that nail right on the head because a lot of people come in assuming that the manufacturer, be it a Volkswagen, be it a Ford, be it a Chevy, is hosting that service contract. And that's really where the major confusion comes in because the manufacturer actually has nothing to do with the repairs. And the level of repair that the manufacturer would approve is going to be gravely different than what a service contract will do. So a lot of people will think, especially if they had acquired that vehicle from new or even close to new through a dealership, they think it's just going to be an extension of what they had before, and it's just continuing it down the road. But it's actually it's I don't want to say a grave departure, but it is different enough where covered repairs just aren't the same thing. So people get the wrong misconception, and then that's when their frustration comes in.
So consumers, I can see how this could be. They buy a used Toyota or they buy a used Ford from the dealer, and the salesman sells them a service contract. Well, this person is buying this vehicle from the dealer, and included in the sale, they purchase a service contract. I doubt the salesman called it a warranty. I hope they didn't. Yeah,
Well,
we don't know.
more often than not, I would hear that term thrown out by the finance department or the sales staff. Yeah, you need to buy the extended warranty on this car. And again, that simply just is not the case.
So then it's left up to the service department to straighten the customer out on what they bought.
Yeah.
Right. Correct.
And
Yeah.
that's when the sparks fly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I
Sometimes.
think too, right? Like with our shop owners, like it's fairly common, like that scenario you just described. I bought this used vehicle at the dealership. I bought a what I think is extended warranty. I come into, Bob's garage and go, "Hey, I've got a warranty on my car." Well, as an independent, you can't do warranty work by definition, right? Because you're not the manufacturer or representing the manufacturer in that point. So that's one of the big hangups too, is they think they bought a warranty. It's not a warranty, it's a contract that another company is going to pay for certain repairs under certain conditions.
Right. Right.
Definitely. And I will say the only gain, especially for an independent versus a dealer, is that with the contract, and of course, it's always a third party, exactly like what Nathan's saying. It's never the manufacturer, like I was mentioning earlier, is that you do have the flexibility to go to an independent, as opposed to when you have a vehicle manufacturer hosted warranty, you have to go to a dealership that hosts that manufacturing line. So it can definitely be beneficial for an independent shop. It's just a matter of if they're set up and they can build correctly.
Right. Now, are there a lot of these third party, I guess they're like insurance companies? Are there a lot of companies out there that you dealt with, or are there just
A
a
ton.
couple? There's a ton of them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
there
there's go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I say like I mean we've all gotten those like phone calls or the
Yeah.
the flyers are like your warranty on your car is expiring. We want to sell you a blah blah blah. We've all got those telemarket things, and there are a ton of those companies out there. Some of them they're quite reputable and do a decent job, all the way down to the ones that take your money and pay for nothing. Just like you would get, when dealing in the insurance world, you have to know like what your company, what company you choose is how they operate, what they do, how they interact with their customers, their reputation, all that goes into play. But yeah, short answer, there's a lot of different companies out there.
Good
So,
way to see how many that you have is stay up to about 2 o'clock in the morning. You'll see iced tea on there trying to sell you one. So, you know what I mean? And then right after his commercial will be another one. And typically, from my experience too, when you get those ones off TV, the same ones do if you buy this for your house, you'll never have to pay for the furnace. And I'll tell you, the coverage is extremely limited, if not barely there at all. And they're charging you a fair amount of money. So you definitely want to go with somebody reputable.
so let me ask you this, because we know that all consumers read all the fine print of these contracts.
And they print it very large too.
Oh yes, oh yeah,
It's very big print.
especially what isn't covered.
Yes.
So then it's on the repair shop, whether you're dealership or an independent, to really educate the customer on what they bought, isn't it?
It does. It kind of
Yeah.
falls squarely on their shoulders. It really does. And honestly, there's so many different colors to the same thing that you're learning in the moment with them. If you didn't have any experience with that company prior, you'll never know what it is until you're reading the contract with them. And then realistically, once you get on the phone with them to start to vet out repairs and they start to tell you why they're not covering something or whatnot, or why they are covering something, that's actually how you learn. Because
Okay,
everybody's
so
so different. There's no rhyme or reason.
Hmm.
so let's say you are an independent, like all of our clients are, and a customer comes in with a complaint of their transmission isn't shifting properly. And they say, "Oh, but I've got this extended warranty that I bought from ABC Company, and I think that this transmission is covered under that." So, what's the best practice for an independent when they're confronted with that, especially a young service advisor who goes like wide-eyed and go, "What are you talking about?"
From what I've seen, the best approach that I've done, and I've always had my advisors do, is just first and foremost, the customer really needs to be able to give them all of their paperwork. the advisor really needs every single bit of paper. And, we really end up having to call in and really talk to the host to say what's wrong, to see what's going to be covered. But usually in preparation beforehand, we will usually tell a client to say, I understand you have this. I really don't know what it's going to cover. And honestly, they make the decisions. We don't. So just in case, be prepared for a cost that you may not be prepared for, thinking that you're walking out of here a $25 deductible, $50, $100 deductible, whatever it is. Do be
Mhm.
prepared for something else. And then once we talk to them, we'll let you know. And then usually the best practice also is that we try to get a name of who we spoke to. So if there is conflict, they can talk to the company directly, because in that situation, like Nate and I, in that situation, we're really the third party that has absolutely no choice in it. So the best way is to let the customer and that company figure it out between the two of them, because we can only do what they tell us. So it's
Yeah,
Right.
really all about telling them in the beginning, really prepare and setting expectations.
yeah, and that's the key, Bill, is the expectation side of things. And so like I tell all my clients here as well, is like we want to be open and honest with our customers. And so part of that is like positioning us on the side of the customer, right? Like if you come in, I say, hey, I'm so sorry you're having that problem with your transmission. I see you've got this extended service contract. Here's what we're going to do. All right, we're going to go ahead and diagnose it. Here's our diagnostic fee. At that point, I'm going to call into your extended service contract and present the repair to them. They're going to tell me what they do and don't cover, in which case I will then have a conversation with you. And like Bill said, there may be repairs they don't cover. They may cover partial of it, or they may cover all of it. At that point, you as the customer, you get the decision how you want us to proceed at that point. And like setting that expectation out first kind of helps set them at ease, number one. Also tells them, hey, we're on the same side, right? Like as a shop, like our shops, we make money by doing what? Fixing cars. Like we want to fix your car. But at the same time, as a shop, I'm not going to fix your car at a negative profit or a loss, right? So it's just like I will fix your car, whether you're paying for it, whether extended service contract is paying for it, whether an insurance company is paying for it. We want to fix your car. My job is to help you get your car fixed. Now let's figure out who's going to pay for it. And so kind of positioning that like you're like, hey, we're in this together. You and I, we're getting your car fixed. Now let's do it together. But exactly like Bill said, like we would have different forms. We would have like when we made a call to extended service contract, and I would fill out who I talked to, who I called, name, phone number, their whatever, and document that just on a sheet of paper, or in a computer form every time I made that call. Because a lot of times, like when I would call in a claim, and it would be denied, or they would only cover a portion of the repair, whether it be like a reduced labor time or reduced labor dollar amount, like they wouldn't do my labor rate or something along those lines. I would go back to the customer and say, hey, look, this is what they offered, right? What do you want to do about it? Well, that's ridiculous. It's supposed to be covered all the way. I tell you what, here's who I spoke to. Why don't you call them? Because honestly, you are their customer. You purchased their product. I didn't. Right. So you have a better chance of getting more coverage if you as their customer speak to them as opposed to me.
Right. Yeah, you definitely don't want to get into a
Yeah.
position where they're shooting the messenger, which is you, and you don't want to be into an adversarial situation with the customer, because
Mhm.
it's not your product. It's the insurance company's product. And as the old saying goes, a good service advisor is always on the same side of the counter with the customer, right?
It's true. It's
Yeah.
definitely true. And it's funny because in the end, and I think Nate would possibly agree with this, in the end, they really end up contributing to repairs more than covering. And it really becomes a contribution. And when you look at it that way, you can really start to understand the dynamic of what's going to happen. I mean, first and foremost, nobody's ever going to walk out scot-free. in even if it only gets down to a deductible, it's still something. But I'll tell
Mhm.
you 99.9% of the time, and that's with the bond notation, it ends up being a contribution to the repair.
Right. That's a good way to position it. Well, what you
Hmm.
purchase is a service contract and they'll be contributing to the repair, but in my
Yes,
experience, they never cover everything.
correct. And
And
that's
we won't
usually
know
how I
until we
have
get
my
into it what we've got.
And that was
Yeah.
usually the word tracking I'd have my advisors use is, just speak to them, can tell them it's going to be a contribution to the repair. Because, I've never seen it work as fluently and as full coverage, if you will, as a manufacturer warranty. I haven't seen them do that yet.
Mhm.
Oh, I doubt it. You'd ever see that.
No, no. But Ice-T did say it would be. So we should be calling him up in Beverly Hills.
Yes,
So
he said it
Yeah.
would be. That's right.
yeah, yeah. He was
And
convincing.
and just like the used car salesman at the dealership saying you want an extended warranty because they didn't understand it, right?
Yep.
And it comes down to educating the customer on what they really purchase, how it works, which puts a big onus on a repair shop. So, I guess, is it worth a repair shop, an independent repair shop, to take on work that is covered with one of these service contracts?
I
Um,
mean, I do believe so. Sorry,
yes.
Nate. Definitely, because the thing is that's a revenue stream. And if you leverage it correctly, it can be profitable. But again, Nathan was spot on when he was saying, we're not going to do it at a negative. We're not going to do it at a net zero. And as long as everybody's on the same page, the client, that company, and then of course the shop itself, that'll work out fine. So it can definitely be a revenue stream because then even with some of them, they will put you on their system, if you will, as premier shop or sponsored shop. And then that can really start to increase car count, can really start to increase volume. So it can definitely be very, very, very good as a tool to really increase your sales. But you just have to go into it understanding that you're going to get pushback. You're going to need to present things in the proper fashion. And you're going to really need to make sure that your estimates are a little stronger than normal for the pushback that you will get. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We used
Yeah.
to call
And that's
that
one of the things I want to kind
padding
of
the
piggyback
estimate.
on that too. Right. So in terms of like is it profitable for our shops to do it? Yes, it is. And there are certain things that we have to do to maintain that profitability. And number one is before we call that extended service contract, we prepare the estimate as if we would any other estimate. So those of you that are drive shops, you know what we're talking about, right? We're going to put what's our cost of parts, what's our cost of labor. Let's look at our gross profit percentage on this job and price it at that 58 to 60% gross profit margin. Now, obviously, engines and transmissions, we may only get about 50% gross profit, but we prepare the estimate at that level, right? Then we contact the extended service contract and present it. Here's our findings. Here's the fault. Here's our findings. Here's what we have to do to fix it. And we give them all the information. Now these extended service contracts, they're going to base all their repairs off of stated labor time guides from Mitchell, from AllData, from Motors. And so we know one of the things we also teach here at Drive is that those labor guides are how to repair a car under ideal conditions on a car that's less than 3 years old with less than 30,000 miles. Those don't exist, right? It's going to take you longer every single time. You've got to quality control it. You've got to check your bolts. You've got to test drive it, all those things. So we when we teach building our estimates, we include that in there. Well, the extended service contract isn't going to include that. Right. So they're going to push back. But some things you can do is you can always ask for, well, I have diagnostic time in this. Right. So the stated labor time is, 2.2 hours. Well, I have my 1 hour of diagnosis. Right. You can also try to claim I've got, 3/10 of admin fee because I've been on hold with you for 45 minutes waiting to speak to somebody. I've got so there's certain things you can do, and I would always do this. Like if the book time called for like 5 hours, I would always say, hey, my technician tells he needs 8 hours to do this. Well, why is that? The book kind of says, well, because I've got my diagnosis and this bolt's rusted and this and this and this, and let them tell me, okay, well, we'll cover six. All right. Well, then at that point, like we talked about initially, once I've got an agreement from the service contract of what they will cover, I go back to the customer. Hey, Mr. Customer, your repair is going to cost, $723. Your extended service contract is going to pay $523, which means if you want this repair to be done, you would need to pay the additional 200, right? Because at that 723, my repair order is making sure I've got my gross profit percentage where I need it to be on all my repairs, right? Because as a shop, okay, we don't lose money on repairs that we do. Okay, like we
Right,
we don't we, we don't do that.
unless someone had
Yeah,
a nonprofit organization sign outside the building.
right,
Yes,
right.
yes.
Now I
A
will
lot of
tell you
shops are uncomfortable with that.
No.
yeah, and there is an exception to it, and I do have one of my shops that actually sells these extended service contracts as well. If you
Is he
sell one of
selling
these,
used cars?
they do have some used cars also.
Because I was
If
just
you
curious about that. Just hold on a second, Nathan.
Mhm.
An independent who does not sell used cars, can they also sell these service contracts?
Sure,
Oh yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Almost
absolutely. I mean, just
anybody
like
can.
anybody else, yeah, they'll
Yeah,
if you offer to sell their product for them, they're going to be like, sure, go ahead.
absolutely. If you think
Yeah,
about it, the company that's selling to you on the TV, they're not selling you a car. So they don't really care, to Nathan's point, they don't care who's selling it. You know what I mean? But you got to be careful because when you start hosting those kinds of contracts, when there's issues, they're going to be calling you up after they don't get the information they wanted, especially in Nathan's scenario, $200. I was told a $25 deductible. Let me call ABC Motors who sold me that. You know what I mean? So that's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So it will definitely happen. So you definitely want to be careful. Or if you're going to get involved with something like that, make sure they're definitely reputable and their contribution percentage is usually higher than normal.
Right.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Now,
yes.
another area that I'd like to cover that I know a lot of consumers get confused with, and it's in those contracts, is that they will replace a component with an LKQ. And very few consumers really know what that means. So, how do you broach that?
Well, that one can be tough because they'll say that sometimes, or they'll say with something comparable, which means it can be a used piece. And in the end, it's up to the company, the contract company, on what they provide as a piece to repair the vehicle. And when you have the LKQs of the world, it's kind of like a high quality remanufactured used part. So
Right.
you've got to be really, really careful with that. And I will say also, now that we're talking about that, a lot of times, and Nathan's probably run into this more times than he cares to admit, is there'll be a delay receiving the parts from the contract company when they want to put something used in. They have to source it. That place has got to
hmm
get it to you. And especially with larger components, engine, transmission, axles, they can delay a week or so
Right.
hmm
easily. And now you have a vehicle up on a lift, probably apart, probably can't be taken off, so you've got to really, really be empathetic to that and be aware because the most valuable real estate in a shop is the lift.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the
Oh
way, for
yeah.
those who are
And
listening who are not familiar with that term, LKQ, it means like, kind, quality, right? Like, kind, quality. So many times that is a reman. It's not even a reman. It doesn't have to be a reman unit. It could be a used unit.
Yep, that's
hmm
just kind of cleaned up a little bit and checked real fast and then sold. Yep.
yeah. And to what I stated earlier, it's all about documentation, documentation, documentation. So when I call that extended service contract and find out what they're going to cover, even if it's a used part, my very next call before I'm like, great, woohoo, let's order it. No, my next call is always going to be to the customer. Hey, Mr. Customer, I called your extended service contract. Here's what they covered. They want to use this part in your car. Okay. do we have your approval to proceed and order and proceed with the repairs, right? Because it's again, the customer still has to give authorization to do the work. So
Yeah,
I
the
want to
customer
make
is
sure,
your
because if I
customer.
right, because if I'm installing that part, I want to make sure my customer knows that it was sourced by their company, or they only approved a certain level of quality, right? Let's say it's an axle. You go to Napa, you can get 2 or 3 levels of axles. They only approve the lowest quality level. Like I'm recommending the OE equivalent one, which is $200 more. They approved this one. Which one do you want to do? Right. So making sure that, again, like positioning myself on the side of the customer, hey, we're in this together, right? Like, here's what they're going to cover. Do you want that part in there? No, you don't? Okay. I tell you what, we can put a better quality part in, but they're still only going to pay this dollar amount. So you're going to be responsible for the difference.
Right.
Right. So again, that position. One other thing real quick too, when asking about should our shops take them, there are a couple use extended service contracts. There's a couple things that I deem as must-haves. Number one, if you're going to deal with a company, okay, obviously you're going to have admin time that you're on the phone for, but you also need to know, how do they pay, right? Do they pay by a credit card as soon as that paperwork is submitted? Right? Or do you have to submit this paperwork and fax it in? Yes, people still use fax machines, and they'll mail you a check, right? Even at the dealership, we didn't deal with those companies. I'm like, nope, if they don't pay by a credit card, we don't take them. Because
Well, that's good
I just did
advice.
the work. I want to get paid right now. I don't want to wait and hope this company sends me a check in 2 or 3 weeks. So if you're going to work with extended service contracts, only take ones that pay immediately with credit card, either with email or over the phone, once those repairs are completed. Because
Now,
again,
the only
you
way
did the
you're going to
work,
know
get paid for it.
that's not in the contract. So the only way a shop's going to know that is by contacting them and asking them up front, how do you pay? What is
Correct.
your payment
And one of the major
process?
pitfalls also is that even aside from just trying to collect funds, you as an independent shop, are you going to release a vehicle without being paid? Sometimes that payment, God, I've seen a week or two. Well, you're not going to release that vehicle because what if the company doesn't pay?
Right.
Mhm.
And that becomes a major problem and people get upset. So to Nathan's point, a lot of times they'll give you a one-time use credit card number. It's only good for that amount, one time only, and that's that. It'll never be valid again. So and like he said, the second it gets approved and you submit 10, 15 minutes maybe, Nathan, right? Via email, you usually see it, give or take. So anybody can
Mhm.
live with that, but the other ones, when you have to wait, and you could be talking thousands of dollars.
Yeah. So a shop definitely has to do its due diligence when a customer comes in and goes, "Hey, I've got an extended warranty."
Yep.
Educating the customer and then finding out who the company is, how they pay, and obviously, if it's going to be a used component, that's got to be considered when you're working up the estimate, because
Mhm.
say a used transmission or used engine, you build up an estimate, you're considering it's going to be, you were going to use a quality new part in this repair, and now you're getting a used scrapyard engine, which is going to take another 2 hours to clean up before you can use it.
It
Mhm.
may require additional labor just to get it even ready for the vehicle. And actually, one quick point too, I wanted to touch upon because I know we're almost out of time, is
Yeah, we
is
are.
that sometimes some of the companies actually won't even allow you to repair the vehicle unless you use their parts. So just because they may have, say, like a $250 credit of a used part that they were going to allow you to use, it doesn't necessarily mean they'll give you $250 towards the repair if you don't use their part. So you can get into that kind of conundrum also, and that can become a problem. So you can't
Yeah,
just assume that the customer wants to upgrade the part, so I have $250 credit with them, and he's going to throw in another 150 because it's a $400 axle. That doesn't always happen.
right.
Mhm.
Well, we're
Yep.
we're up against the hour, and I've got to do a station break here, guys. So hold on a second. Next week, October 25th, we're going to have a very special show. We're going to be having Travis Saley from Lawrence Auto in Montana joining us. And Travis is going to give us a live tour of his renovated facility. And from everything I've heard from all the top 20 members who visited this facility, it is lights out great. So be sure to tune in next week for that show. Gentlemen, I want to thank you so much. We could really talk for another half hour easy on this subject. I hope for those
Yep.
who are listening, I know Hector in LA is listening. He thought it was great information. So thanks so much for joining us. And from all of us at Drive Facebook Live, have yourselves a great afternoon and a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.